funk and disco with a wig on, with an afro wig?
No, that was 73 and 74. And what happened is rock started to die in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and I couldn't get any gigs. So I would audition for anything, and there was an audition for a disco cover band, and I went down and auditioned for it, and they thought I was great because basically I was just playing Billy Cobham parts, you know what I mean, which is kind of disco-ish anyway at the time. And they said, great, you've got the gig. Two things. You have to wear this baby puke brown jumpsuit with rhinestones, which I didn't have a problem with because I didn't have any fashion sense anyway, and you have to cut your hair. And I said, okay, because I wanted the job, but I had no intention of cutting my hair. So I went home and I told my mother my dilemma, and she goes, no problem. She gets me in the car, take the Cadillac over to a wig store. She finds a wig that looks like my hair. We go home. She says, wash your hair and then put it in this hairnet. I put it in the hairnet. She put the wig on me, and it looked like me again, right? And then she gave the wig a haircut. So for about 9 to 10 months, I was doing a disco gig with this wig on, and they thought it was, they thought it was my haircut. And we did a show at a place called, I think it was Moon Shadows or something like that. It was like by the Intercoastal Waterway in Fort Lauderdale. And Jocko is in the audience for some reason. And he comes up to the stage and says to the guitar player, who was the boss, he goes, can I come up and play a song? And he's saying no. And I said, let this guy play, because I had already met Jocko because he used to come into the records. So I said, let this guy play, and we did Walking in Rhythm.
Oh yeah.
And what Jocko did to that was I was with my mouth open, flies coming in. I'm just keeping it. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever heard.
I bet.
Yeah. And when he was finished, this singer goes, this guitar player goes, let's give a big hand for little Jocko Pastorized.
Pastorelli, yeah. Little Jocko Pastorelli.
Little Jocko Pastor. Yeah, that's a big hand for Pastor. Yeah.
So I'm going to fast forward because
sure.
we
can go for a month.
I can't wait to get to when we actually start living together, in Hollywood. Okay, so from my end, around that time I left Florida with my brother and a couple of other people, and we moved to Utica, New York, and we tried to sort things out. And my only job that I got in Utica, New York, was being the follow spot guy at Bottoms Up strip joint. And I was really good at it too.
I think I was a patron.
This is Utica, New York, Bottoms Up, the strip joint, and a lot of perks that came along with that. But then again, I was really good at the follow spot.
But you were dedicated.
Yeah, I was. So that didn't work out. Not the follow spot job, but being in a rock band. Yeah, and I thought, for a while, I thought, maybe I should get a gig. Make this my career, the follow spot guy at the strip joint. So eventually, my brother and I, and now they're engaged. Susie.
Right. This is when he had the perm with the red hair, correct?
That's right.
And he used to wear the voodoo beads.
The voodoo beads.
That's right. Yes.
That's another story, and I'm going to let my brother in a podcast talk about his voodoo beads.
I'm not touching it.
The origin of the actual voodoo beads, where they are actually. I think somewhere my brother is registered as a voodoo priest. At a registry somewhere, because
that would explain why in his gig bag he has a guitar, a bunch of pennies, brown paper bags, and some rotting bananas. So I think that's a clue.
He is ordained. He just does. For those listening, actually, Robert my brother and Frankie and I, we did play a lot together in bands.
Yeah, we did. Let me. I got to share this. I knew you were the perfect bass player for me the first time we got together to rehearse. Because remember, I had that little rehearsal studio.
I'll never forget the smell of cork.
Of cork, yeah, because I went out and got remnants of carpet, none of them matched, and put the carpet in myself. And then the cheapest material, soundproofing material, was this cork that they burnt. So you constantly smelled like you were a fireman that was very busy. It just reeked of it. But I remember you pulled up in your car, and I looked out the window. And the first thing I saw was an acoustic 360, and I said, yes. And then you pulled out the bass, which wasn't in a case, and I'm assuming it wasn't in a case because either you didn't have a case or it was the only way it was going to fit in the car.
It was the only way it was going to fit. Yeah.
That's what I thought. And I saw a Fender Jazz bass, and I said,
right, 67 Jazz.
This is the guy.
Yeah. And
do you remember the first song we played?
I remember, yes. I think. Wasn't that the time? Remember, I was just mentioning about finding a guy that sold Quaaludes, and was that the what was his name?
No. This was the first time we got together to play was just you and Robert and I.
Yes.
And this came follow up to you coming over to the house and listening to all the progressive records.
Yeah.
The first thing. We jumped into the deepest of deep ends because the first song we tried playing together was 21st Century Schizoid Band with you singing. And one of the things that I still laugh about, it's like, you know, I'm telling you about the arrangement and we're doing this, doing that, and I'm telling your brother, and I'm going on and on and on, and I'm speaking like at a million miles a minute because I'm so excited that we're going to play the song. And then I said to Robert, okay? And then Robert looked at you and infamously said, ¿Qué dice?
¿Qué dice? ¿Qué dice?
Which means, what do you say?
Well, we had only been in the country for about maybe 12 years, so in Miami, so, you know.
And I spoke with an accent and very fast.
English was not a priority at the time.
Very fast.
Speaking of me singing,
yes.
Okay, there was a period.
Yes.
There was a period where you actually stopped communicating with me.
Yes.
Especially at I was a lead singer
yes.
in a band called Ashes to Ashes, and you will walk by in front of the stage at the Flying Machine, and you would refuse to look at me.
No. What? From my perspective, I go there. I was expecting to see you play bass. So I get there, and you're wearing the satin green sleeves kind of outfit, you know, and you had the knee-high boots, and you look great. I mean, it was very Chris Squire-ish, you know, but you have no bass on, and then you start singing, and I was in utter shock and disbelief. And I walked up to the front of the stage and I looked at you, and then I hung my head in shame and I left.
Okay, I don't know if you know this, but the reason why I started singing is because a few months before that, I actually joined a band, again, a bunch of Cubans, except for the lead singer, right? And the band was called Cock. C-O-K-K.
Like the bird.
Yeah. Cock like
the rooster.
Yeah, like the rooster.
Yeah. The nickname for a rooster.
Yeah. C-O-K-K,
yes,
right?
Yes,
okay. Actually the calling card, the business cards were actually it was a logo of a little rooster, then you open it up like a matchbox, you know, like those you know, and it had a finger rubber, kind of like a condom, but a very small one, you know. So that's where the band's head. I didn't come up with the stuff. I just joined the band.
It's all about marketing.
You know, the keyboard player, Tony, who used to be in Cracker.
I remember Tony.
Okay,
yeah.
Tony.
Yeah.
He calls me up and say, hey, our bass player doesn't want to do this tour, and we need a bass player. So actually, I find out that the bass player took a hammer and smashed his arm to keep himself from going on that tour, because it was we didn't have a van. I think it was either a van or a car that we drove up to Michigan. from Miami.
From Miami.
Yeah, with a U-Haul in the back and with a whole band in one vehicle.
Talk
right?
about routing.
Yeah, so it's worth of smashing your arm to avoid that. Okay, but I wasn't even in my 20s yet. So I say, yeah, okay, I'll do this, and it was so bad. We had what they called the porn set. Which meant that the singer would come out, and of course we're already wearing like glam, glittery clothes, right? The singer comes out, and he's got a vacuum cleaner in reverse, which means it shoots out instead of sucks in, and he would put glitter in it, then put the hose between his leg, and during some Bowie song, while holding an inflatable doll, he simulated sex on stage when we're playing. It was appalling, so.
No, it was showbiz.
So we did this tour of Michigan, and we come back to Miami, and I was like, I think I'm going to quit this. The show business ain't for me, right? So my brother, he says, "Hey, our singer, he can't make the next gig," and it was like some kind of Catholic school. Dance.
Social.
Yeah, dance, And I said, you know what? I'll sing for you guys because I figure I can be just as bad as this other guy, So I did, and of course put a lot of reverb. We had a Shure Vocal Master, with the reverb on stunt.
The master reverb. Yeah, that went to 11.
11 a reverb, and I pretended to sing. Because I'm going through the motions. And back in the day when you were Cuban and you were singing to other Cubans, you sang with a Cuban accent.
Right.
So it didn't matter.
Oh, yeah. No,
if I sounded like Ricky Ricardo doing David Bowie.
No, I remember the Moody Blues Classic with you, and I quote, "Nights in white satin." And I'm trying to figure out, what the hell is sateen?
We just didn't know any better. Because we all talk like that, so we sang like that, And in Miami, nobody said, "Hey, wait a minute."
What kind of accent is that?
Yeah. Once you went from Miami, Dade County into Broward County,
right.
Everything changed.
Of course.
It was kind of like the Wizard of Oz, went from like...
Well, it was a wizard. It was a wizard. I don't know about Oz, but it was definitely a wizard in South Florida at that time. So
it's like, wow, people sound different once you cross the county line into Broward. So again, going back to Utica, New York, New Jersey, and somehow, some way, I met up with these guys, Gene Lennon and Roy Jones. Yes, and somewhere in New Jersey, right? So we are like, we're going to put a band together. So, which meant that I was going to leave my brother and his wife now, which is great because, they needed to start their own thing, And so here I am with I had an SVT head with two cabs that I did not bring with me, but it was an SVT head that I dragged with me across the country, everywhere we went. Didn't even play it once.
You just brought it along for the ride.
I got on a train bound for Chicago, on a train out of New York, bound for Chicago with SVT head, which weighs about 80 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Weighed more than you did back then.
Exactly. My bass in a case and two suitcases. And I'm on my way to Chicago, and I was meeting some people there. That didn't work out. Eventually, I took another train down to Papillon, Omaha, Nebraska, Papillon area, which is where Roy Jones lived.
Right.
And
Bob Marlette, too, right?
Well, Bob lived in Lincoln. So we went down to Lincoln, and I spent weeks sleeping in Bob Marlette's basement, which was the music room. And that's when we put the band Shatterstar together.
The infamous
Shatterstar. And then we got an agent, John Bracamontes, out of Chicago. And we started touring the area. Now, this is where you come in.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, we felt it was time to make a change in the drums.
The drum seat.
The drum seat.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I tell the guys, I know the perfect guy. You know, if we're gonna get another drummer, I know the guy. I called you up, and for some reason you said, okay. Why?